the place, and there's toilets through there. If there is a fire, just follow me, because I'll be the first one out. Welcome to the candidates and to you attending this evening. The Alexandrina Council is actually supporting this by not charging for the use of the hall, which is rather nice of them, and it'll be the same in Port Elliot. And some of the other halls are the same thing. The locals have actually made no charge for the use of it, like Mount Compass, and I'm not sure about some of the others, but it means that everyone's interested in hopefully most people are interested in what's going on from a political point of view. We better do an acknowledgement of country. We're meeting on the lands of the Narrandjeri people, but the seat of Finniss extends to the Paramang and the Kaurna traditional lands. And we also acknowledge all these First Nations people as the traditional custodians of the lands and waters of the Fleurieu, and pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Now, if you don't know me, I'm Bill Coomans. I'm sort of your MC for this evening, and I think I'll be MCing the others as well. After tonight, they might ask me not to turn up anymore, but I'll do my best. I've lived in Finniss for 13 plus years, have been involved with various local governments for over 50 years, with service clubs, with community and also sports groups. I've never been a member of any political organisation, and I focus instead on various members who are actually working for the betterment of their community. So it doesn't matter what persuasion they are. If they work for the community, then I'm happy to support them. I'm not sure whether you know about the seat of Finniss. Finniss is actually named after Boyle Travers Finniss, who was the first Premier of South Australia 170 years ago. It covers over 1,000 square kilometres from Mount Compass, where I come from, to Malang, to Goolwa, High Marsh Island, and down to Middleton, Port Elliot, and including all of Victor Harbour and the Inman Valley. So it's quite an extensive area. Previous state members have been Dean Brown, who also happened to be a Premier, Michael Pengilly, who's now Mayor of Kangaroo Island, and the current member David Basham. It's within the federal seat of Mayo, held by Rebecca Sharkey. So the introductions I should do now. The Honourable David Basham MP let me know today that he wasn't attending. He's not quite satisfied that what we're doing here is totally unaligned to any particular group, person or political party, and I hope by the end of the evening you might agree that in fact it's totally apolitical. I have been in touch with the Labor Party on a number of occasions. They haven't quite announced who their member will be. Hopefully by the end of the 6 sessions we'll know. And the Greens candidates, most have been announced, but not the member for the candidate for Finniss. Greg Powell is here. Greg is the One Nations candidate for the seat of Finniss. Bron Lewis is the independent candidate for Finniss, and Lou Nicholson is also the independent candidate for Finniss. Carlos Corangbi, who's now the President of One Nation South Australia, will be with us tomorrow night, but unfortunately, Greg tells me...
He apologises for not being able to attend tonight.
Okay.
Pauline's coming into Adelaide, so...
So Greg will be pretty busy, yeah. Scott Rich is an independent candidate for the Legislative Council, and he's an apology, but he'll be attending the Port Elliot and the Victor Harbour ones. Thank you to the South Coast Television Group. Lance up the top there is recording this evening, and I'm on my best behaviour, Lance. And the Fleurieu Sun journalists, Tara's here, Jack's here, and Danny?
Oh,
Southern Argus, sorry, are also here taking some notes. Hopefully you've got some questions that you want to ask, and we've got 2 microphones either side, so you can choose stage left or stage right, and please make the questions fairly general, and I'm sure these 3 will take the best to answer them. Now, what we'll do in terms of each candidate speaking for up to 5 minutes, I've got a hat. I did mention in advertising I've got a hat, and I'll put all the names in there, and the way they came out is the way they will have their 5 minutes. And I'm thinking that maybe I'll have the House of Assembly candidates first, and then we don't have any Legislative Council, so we won't have to worry about the Legislative Council. So I've got the names here, and I want to make sure David Basham is not here, the Labor candidate is not here, the Greens candidate's not here, Greg Power's here, so I'm just going to fold him up, put him in the hat. Lou Nicholson is here, so I'm going to fold her name up. I'm going to get someone to draw this. And we've got Bron Lewis, independent candidate for Finniss, also here. Carlos is not here, and Scott Rich is not here. I must apologise for that, because it would have been good if we had some more, but don't be afraid if tomorrow night we're at Malang, and then we're at Port Elliot on Thursday, Mount Compass Tuesday of next week, Victor Harbour on Wednesday of next week, and then Inman Valley. So we expect a better range of, not a better, more candidates attending those, so please come along to any one of those. So here's the... Now, Bron, stay where you are if you like, and there's a microphone next to you. What do you want to use here?
Yeah,
okay, absolutely. Come on over.
Sorry, when you're reading this. Thanks, Bill. And I actually want to thank the other candidates for coming, because anyone who puts their hand up in this environment deserves respect, and thanks for showing up and putting up. Hi, hopefully this is 5 minutes. My name is Bron Lewis, and I'm standing as an independent voice for Finniss. I've spent my whole working life in health, education, the arts and community leadership. As a nurse, a health executive, a university lecturer, a counsellor and a board director of one of Australia's largest regional health services. And I want to be very clear about this. I haven't just turned up for photo opportunities. I've been here year in, year out, in council chambers, community halls, hospitals, listening posts, working groups, doing the unglamorous work that never makes a press release. That experience has taught me one simple truth. Good outcomes don't come from slogans. They come from planning, persistence and listening. People sometimes ask me where my political values come from. They're grounded in principles that are actually very old and still very relevant. In 1954, Robert Menzies set out what was become known as the Liberal Manifesto. And when you read it today, many of those principles align strongly with why I'm standing as an independent. Today, even the Labor Party has moved to the right of those old-fashioned values. Menzies spoke about the dignity of the individual, that people should not be controlled by distant systems that don't understand their lives, that matters deeply in a regional electorate like Finniss. He believed in the rule of law and good governance, transparency, accountability and responsibility. That aligns with my belief that public money must be managed carefully in the long-term interests of the community. He spoke about rights carrying duties, that citizenship is not about what we demand, but what we contribute. That idea underpins my respect for the volunteers, the carers and community groups who hold this region together every single day. And importantly, Menzies rejected division. He believed that social justice and economic responsibility must go together, not one at the expense of the other. And that balance is exactly how I approach the big challenges facing Finniss. Take healthcare. For people here, health isn't abstract, it's personal. It's long drives, delayed care, and families being separated when people are most vulnerable. That's why I'm a strong advocate for proper regional health planning, including a standalone palliative care unit in Victor Harbour. I'm also on a national roundtable looking at practical ways to improve patient access to specialists and transport. I don't just talk about these issues, I understand health systems from the bedside to the boardroom, and I know how to turn need into delivery. In fact, when I saw a gap in the patient care at Flinders Medical Centre and stepped in to fix it, even the Health Minister described me publicly as a force of nature. That's not about ego, that's about getting things done when systems fail. On housing, we need honesty. Young people can't stay, older people can't downsize, essential workers can't afford to live here. Affordable housing means smaller, well-designed homes, built smarter, using local materials, lower energy costs and circular economic thinking, so people can stay in the communities they love at every stage of their life. The houses need to be affordable to run as well as to build. And this is where my environmental credibility matters. My commitment to climate and sustainability didn't start yesterday. It goes back more than 20 years. I worked nationally with ICLEI, the Local Governments for Sustainability, helping councils measure emissions, manage climate risk and plan for heat, flooding and coastal impacts long before it was fashionable. As a councillor, I worked on tree canopy mapping, urban heat analysis, coastal adaptation planning and climate risk frameworks, not as slogans but practical tools to guide better decisions. For me, environmental responsibility is not ideology, it is risk management, it is economic responsibility and it is intergenerational fairness. Protecting our coastlines, managing flood risk, preventing algal blooms and planning growth properly are not green issues, they're public health issues, tourism issues, cost of living issues and community safety issues. On transport, Finniss is long past the point of talk. Victor Harbour Road, Middleton freight routes, public and community transport, these are state responsibilities and we deserve funded plans, timelines and delivery, not endless studies. That's why I'm standing as an independent, because Finniss needs a strong local voice, one that listens, understands complex systems and works constructively with government without being owned by it. Politics as usual or leadership grounded in values, experience and delivery? It's your choice.
Well, thank you all for coming tonight. It's good to see a good turnout. My name's Greg Powell. I've lived in this area only for about 7 months, but I've lived on the Fleurieu for close to 30 years. My background is basically computing IT, working with elders. I excel in those days, developing computerised systems for the wool industry and also all branches Australia-wide and New Zealand. Bought property in Kaipo, the range area, and developed a premium vineyard in the 90s. Went back to school at 40, did viticulture, and I've basically worked my own vineyard and worked as a vigneron viticulturalist up until retiring just recently. Married to Julianne, 3 children, 4 grandchildren, and I just love this area. I've been coming down here since I was a teenager surfing, and 45 years ago, and I've moved back to probably where my roots are. I think I've always loved this area, but a lot of people ask me why would you retire and then get involved in politics? But I'm very concerned about the direction we're heading in as a country. And I'm also very concerned about our future generations and what they're going to be left with as far as debt and just the culture of the country. As far as the local community goes, very diverse. The major population's over 60, retired, on fixed incomes or self-funded, but a lot of new families are moving into the area, hence the development, and a lot of people are actually commuting to the city now to work, purely just to be able to get into housing. So I think the issues for Finniss, we're going to have major infrastructure issues as far as roads, as Ron just mentioned. The Adelaide to Victor roads falling to pieces as we speak. The amount of traffic that is using it's just increasing by the day, really. So that needs major capital expenditure. I've spoken to a lot of people. There's water issues in the area. Main water supply from Maiponga isn't going to be sufficient. Public transport's another one. There's not enough public transport through Finniss to cater for the elderly generations. And waste, water, sewer, everything, power, it all has to be upgraded. And we don't want a repeat of what's really happened in Mount Barker, where all the development has gone ahead before the infrastructure's been put in place. It'll cause major issues, and that's one thing we don't want. The regional development, this is quite an interesting article that's just been released. It's the 2026 state election regional priorities, and they talk about long term, probably a rail link between Victor and Adelaide, and a bypass between Victor and Goolwa, so we take all the heavy traffic movement and the heavy trucks out of Middleton and Port Elliot. And one thing I was surprised about was evidently the steam rangers run into trouble with bridge repairs from Mount Barker. I think they have 65,000 passengers a year travel on the actual steam ranger itself. Our policies are all on the One Nation SA website, but some of the local policies I think that will affect us and all basic councils in South Australia. We've got a local government policy where we want to make local councils a lot more accessible and transparent and accountable to the ratepayer. We want to restore democracy into councils where everyone's basically got a valued opinion that isn't overridden, and that it gets to a stage where there's no condemnation, no bias. Everyone's got a say. Any major or all non-core expenditure must meet ratepayers' approval. We've got some of the highest rates in South Australia in this region, and you get your rubbish picked up once a fortnight. And I was in Alexandrina for 27 years. I was paying, this is 3 years ago, $4,000 a year in rates, and I was getting my rubbish picked up once a fortnight. That was about it. But, and the people that have bought my vineyard now are paying $6,000 a year for the same service. So it's a case of we want to see that improve. And transparency with borrowings as well. As far as debt goes, to a country, it's national, it's state, and it's local. And the ratepayer's got to cover the debt, the taxpayer's got to cover the federal debt and the state debt. And everyone seems to be spending a lot of money at the moment, and 57 billion over budget in the federal budget. And they're saying our interest bill alone federally is going to be 50 billion by 25 or 26, 27. So it's a lot, and it's got to be thought about, and it's got to be considered, and we're going to have to do something about it. Immigration's another issue. With the number of people that are coming into this country, you wonder why we've got a housing crisis. My grandkids, right, probably will never ever own a home unless the parents are in a position to be able to financially support them. And it's not good. It's got to change. and by reducing immigration, building more public housing after selling it off, reducing basically the red tape. I was amazed. They reckon 45% of a new house build, is government fees and red tape. And we want to drop the GST on new builds for first home builders, reduce the government charges and make it more affordable and a little bit easier just to basically get into the housing market. And Albanese and Malinauskas last week were sprouting, 800 million for 17,000 new homes in South Australia. Well, I don't know. I don't think 800 million is going to go very far. So,
Thank you, Greg.
all good.
You take mine, did you?
I probably did.
Yeah.
That's yours.
Okay, I'm going to predict who the next one is. Good grief, I was right.
Thank you. Is that on? Now? Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, sharing our passion for the region that we love together. The state election is a very important time for our community. It's a time to raise the issues that matter most and to choose who is going to take responsibility for those issues and seek effective outcomes over the next 4 years. I'd like to thank Bill Coomans, who has taken on the role of organiser for this event tonight. Many may be aware that there have been some reservations regarding the transparency and fairness of some of the candidate forums. Transparency in democracy matters. Despite those reservations, I know that our community has shown up tonight in good faith. I'm committed to showing up for you. So to begin, I'd like to quote the first line of a song we all know and love by a true Aussie icon, John Farnham. We have the chance to turn the pages over. Our electorate of Finniss has always been Liberal. Blue ribbon, safe. In 2022, however, I ran as an independent, and we got to within 180 votes of making history. When I told my friends and family that I was running that year, I think they were surprised, to say the least. I certainly had never anticipated a journey into politics. Where on earth had it come from? I can actually tell you that precisely. A few years earlier, I was a busy mum with 2 young toddlers and another on the way. A policy came to my attention that was set to have a big impact on early childhood education and health. I developed a strong view, so naturally, as anybody might, I made an appointment with my local member, our current MP, David Basham. I spent a long time preparing my evidence-based argument for changes to his government's policy. The day of the meeting finally arrived, but as I walked into the Finniss electoral office, our MP walked out. With much excitement, he explained, the Liberal candidate for the by-election in Mayo was here. He had to go. It was 2018 and the Liberal machine was in full swing. I was left with an advisor who told me, basically, your issue is not a significant concern to the member's voter base, so it's not a concern for him. I left. I'd waited so long for that meeting, and I felt so let down. Not only couldn't he give me the time of day, but our local MP couldn't seem to care less about an important contribution from his community regarding the impact of his own government's policy on children who otherwise didn't have a voice in the matter. Not just that, he didn't feel like he had to listen because his vote was safe. Many will know the moment. The point in time where you weren't that interested in politics, and then you were. I started to pay attention, and what I could see was that Finniss only had one real choice at election time: Considered a safe Liberal seat since 1941, we haven't had serious attention from the major parties. Our votes have been taken for granted every 4 years. Leading up to 2022, I wasn't the only one feeling disheartened. People were quick to share their views. He's disconnected. He's never around. He's more interested in what's happening in the Adelaide party room. Investment in our region is mismatched with our priorities. It was a stark contrast to Rebecca Sharkey, our federal MP, who we backed in again in 2018. Outside of the two major parties, she had strongly connected with the community, and her ability to work with the people resonated. We need an independent, I thought, someone who will think for themselves and represent our people. I took time to look up a previous independent to see if he would run again. I thought I could be his #1 supporter and we could really make change. I tracked him down, but he told me, "Lou, I've moved to Adelaide." He said, "I only ran because I couldn't find someone else to run." Well, I didn't know anybody either, and nobody else was stepping up. I couldn't do nothing though. After a couple of months of consideration, I decided I would run. I started from nothing. I sold my business 1 year out from the election and I launched myself into a campaign. I literally YouTubed how to run an election campaign. I drew on every skill, experience and qualification I had. I gave the election everything, and people came with me. They said, "I'm so glad you're here. We need a change around here." Now, I'm not shy of hard work. Impossible to me means just dig deeper. So when I achieved an incredible 49.3% of the final distribution of votes, I was thrilled. I call it a spectacular second, but I was not surprised. I knew from dedicating a whole year talking to our local communities in Finniss that we were well and truly ready to turn the page. Now we're 7 weeks out from the next election, and I'm still here. I have remained connected to our community as an elected council member. I have grown my skills by completing the Pathways to Politics course through Adelaide Uni. I have developed strong relationships and connections within state politics and local government. And each year, living here in the best part of South Australia, my husband Sam and I grow and deepen our relationships and passion for the Southern Fleurieu. We both have 3 generations of family living here. We're raising our children here. We own a house here. We are working here and participating in the future. After the 2022 election, yes, there has been change. After the shock of nearly losing his seat, we have all seen the sitting member do more coffee catch-ups. But has there been real change for the better? The Liberal Party is now in opposition. They have lost even more seats in failed by-elections. They've had 3 leaders during this term. Our sitting members' party, the party that so many in Finniss have supported in the past, is not at its best. How are we going to address the ongoing needs of our electorate? The need for increased health services and hospital infrastructure, for access to the patient-assisted transport scheme, to improve our public transport, to manage growth and upgrade our roads and essential water infrastructure, to ensure our environment is prioritised for healthy communities and a healthy future, to deliver social housing, see greater funding stream to our schools and so much more. By voting the same again? If we keep voting Liberal, how will our outcomes change? If we stop putting a party first, we can put Finniss to the front, and the time to do that is now. With your vote, I will work every day on the job of representing you and making our future brighter. I will be accountable to you, my community, not an Adelaide party room. I will take our priorities to the parties, not a party priority to you. I will work with any government to deliver investment and better outcomes for us, and I will make evidence-based decisions in collaboration with wisdom and experience that is in our community and as a highly engaged Member of Parliament, be active, present and listening at all times. If elected, my top priorities are delivering a plan for the future of our hospital and increased clinical health services, fighting for the expansion of the patient-assisted transport scheme to deliver real outcomes for our people. And I will fight for state government to significantly increase their investment in regional public transport. My approach is positive and it's collaborative. I will not beat my chest. I will go to the doors and have constructive conversations. I will not be a Facebook warrior. I will fight and develop relationships that matter to deliver outcomes for our region, and I will do that for 4 years. Over the next 7 weeks, we just need 180 more votes to make history. Today I'm asking you to use this time to get involved. Elections are the most crucial time to engage in democracy. You have the chance to turn the page over this time. On March 21st, put a number 1 next to Lou Nicholson, independent. It's time to put Finniss to the front.
Thank you, Lou. I guess the 5 minutes went out the door a little bit, but we've only got 3 candidates, so I was quite happy just to let it go a little bit longer. Well, now it's your turn. We've got 2 microphones. If you'd like to ask some general questions, perhaps make them general, and we'll ask each of the candidates to respond. So, are there some questions you'd like to ask? Please come down to those 2 microphones. And if you do, I'll just...
To everybody. I'm Liz Graham, a resident of Goolwa South. My question is to each candidate. Can the candidates please inform us where they have planned to direct their preferences? Thank you.
Lou, you want to go first?
Is that working? Yeah. Thank you, Liz. Good question. As you well know, and it's worth explaining, obviously people decide where their preferences will go. It's up to individuals who number the boxes on their ballot paper, but of course candidates will mostly hand out a how to vote card. So that is their suggestion for you if you'd like to support them, how you could order your preferences. For me, it's really important as an independent to run an open ticket. So on my how to vote card, I'll put a number 1 next to me to demonstrate where my name is. I'm running to represent you. I'm running as one of your candidates and I'm offering what I can do over the next 4 years. I'm seeking your number 1. I am not running to influence the outcome and the sway of the outcome, whether it's going to be to Liberal, Labor or otherwise. So I'll be putting a number 1 there and leaving the rest of the boxes blank with a firm reminder that you must number all of those boxes in order for your vote to be valid.
You go, yeah.
Greg?
Our standing is basically very similar to Lou's. It's up to the individual to decide who they want to vote for and basically number every box. It's an individual's decision and it's of no influence from us.
Thanks, Bill. As I kept my 5 minutes, I might be a little bit longer than the other 2 on this one. Preferential voting is a very complex system, and at the last election, the Labor Party got 22%, Lou got 19 point something, and the preferences brought her up very close to the Liberal candidate. So your preferences are actually really important. It's difficult for us as candidates when we have no Labor or Greens candidate as yet. I did call Lou and say that I think that it's important that we have an independent, and I would be preferencing independence over parties, but we are waiting to see who those candidates are and to have those conversations. But I will be really clear on my how to vote with my preferences, because the other thing that I read in the candidate manual, and I'm the rookie this time, is that when you put in your how to vote card with EXA, you actually have to put your preferences in, because if I get knocked out, then my preferences go to who I preference. And so while candidates are saying it's up to you, they have to put their preferences in, and that preference will be put in. Now, I checked this with EXA. I rang them and they explained that I was absolutely on the money with this, that when the candidates put in their preference, it goes, when the other candidates get knocked out, your preferences are laid out. So that's what happened in the last election, that will happen in this election. It will be a tight election and it will come down to preferences. So I'm telling you to number every box. Number every box. Put your preferences in. If you are determined that you don't want a particular party, make sure you rate your preferences in that way. I checked it with EXA.
May I respond?
Yeah.
It's part way there. So candidates are encouraged to lodge a voting ticket, which is essentially, I suppose, your personal vote, how you might vote or how you would like to see the preferences go. That is a safeguard. So in South Australia, to combat or do something about invalid votes, they recognise that there are a number of people who might choose one candidate and not number the other boxes. So there is a safeguard whereby if a voter puts a 1 next to a candidate clearly and they do not otherwise mark the paper, the Electoral Commission will accept that as a valid vote and they will go by the candidate's lodged voting ticket if they choose to put one in. It is something that is highly recommended, and I would absolutely anticipate all candidates would do that as a safeguard, but it is then our duty and everybody's duty to lodge a formal voting ticket which is numbering every single box.
I'd just like to say that I actually double-checked with EXA because we had a meeting, a candidate training, and I wanted to make sure that I understood how it worked. And that is what Mario, the person who heads up nominations in EXA, explained to me how it works. So I am the rookie, but I've asked the question.
Okay. Are we ready to move on? So you had a question?
Yeah, I'm Rob from Hindmarsh Island. Of all candidates, and maybe candidate Lewis can answer first, what is your point of difference that might compel me to vote for you?
I guess it's my runs on the board. I've been around and created a lot of really great projects in the area. I'm really proud of my time on council. Like Lou, at the last elections, I missed out on the mayoral race by 62 votes. And that was with a really nasty campaign. And I have since then, I stood up and became the state president for Local Government Women's Association. I've introduced submission after submission to change the Local Government Act to make local government more transparent, more accountable. I'm very proud of Connie Benares introducing an inquiry into bullying and harassment in local government in the Legislative Council last year. I was, thrilled to be in Parliament House when that happened, because I hate seeing waste. I hate seeing councils waste money on lawyers to bully, and so the system changed at the last election so that they couldn't actually do that quite so successfully. But there is still a lot of money wasted, and one of the things that I was very proud of in my time of council, I never supported a deficit budget, and I will look in deep. I manage budgets 5-10 times bigger than council. I look at how public spending is going, and in this area, it's the ratepayers who are paying. And there's a lot of things that push back to local government that actually are state responsibility. And if you don't have, pardon me, but the balls to stand up and say, I'm sorry, but that's state government, that is not local government, and push back and get the government listening to you. So for things like, at the moment, I have several projects, one with the Minister for the Environment, one with the Minister for Infrastructure, and one with the Minister for Health, that are churning along regardless of whether I get in. They are projects that will make a huge difference to this community. And because they're in the embryonic stages, I can't actually tell you what they are, which is really frustrating because they'd be great announcements. But when I see a problem, like I did at Flinders Hospital, I go in and fix it. And I don't sit around waiting for someone to tell me how to do it. I work it out and get on with it.
Greg, do you have an opinion? Greg, do you have an opinion?
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, Lou.
I have a simple response to that simple question. My point of difference is my ability to get a meeting with the Premier. The Premier came down here to meet with businesses at my request to talk about the impact on those businesses when the algal bloom was at its peak and looking at impacting our summer significantly. The Premier responded to my email and met with myself and businesses. I have another pending meeting with the Premier to discuss significant priorities for our region should we be working together post the election on March 21st. The reason I get a meeting with the Premier is because I have established professional, long-term collaborative relationships over the last 5 years of my journey. Thank you.
Sorry, Greg.
We are a political party. One Nation in South Australia is running candidates in every electorate. We have 3 candidates on the upper house ticket, Carlos Coremba, Rebecca Hewitt, who ran for Mayo last year in the federal election, and a young guy who is a member of the young One Nation party, which has only just been recently developed. And all respect to the independent candidates, if we can get at least 2 into the upper house, we're going to have a major influence on laws that are passed and the ability to be able to put bills forward into the upper house. But I think there's a reasonable amount of just balance there that is going to probably help everyone in South Australia with the cost of living pressures, just power increases. I mean, they're talking about 24% this year alone, right? And increasing prices for the next 10 years. And that's come from CEOs of power companies. And it's just going to get harder and harder and harder. And that's where we want to start making change. We don't support net zero purely because it's 2 words and it's unachievable in our view. We're 1.1% of world emissions, right? But we're trying to take on the world. And it's costing us a lot of money. And the other thing is they won't divulge just how much it's going to cost to get to where they want us to be. And they're sending us broke, simple as that.
Okay. Thank you. Sir, did you have a question? Come on forward.
I had 2 questions, so I'm going to go to the second one, but I just wanted to explain the first question. This lady here stole my lunch. But no, it was well done. No, that's right, that's fine. But I was somewhat disappointed by their responses to that because I think it's going to be a close election. I think it will be decided by preferences, but that's a personal opinion. And I think that we as voters have a right to know if there's going to be preferences handed out, which there will be, which person or which party the candidates are supporting, through their preferences. So to me, it's kind of a non-issue for you guys to be saying that, oh, you're just going to put me down as number one, and then people don't have any interest in who's coming, who also could be along the list. And that to me is not being honest with the electorate. The other part, but the second question I had was to do with the productivity in government. We have terrible problems in the local government sector with low productivity. We are, as ratepayers down here in Alexandrina as well as Victor Harbour. In Victor Harbour we've spent $8 million over the last 4 years on providing the council with the funds to completely change their operating system and to put in place new arrangements, with the primary objective of which was raising productivity. And raising productivity is perhaps the only way that there can be sustained decreases in rates. By now, both Alexandrina and Victor Harbour should have reduced their rates way below what they've been doing, but because the process is shrouded in secrecy, we don't get to hear about it. So,
Sorry, could you lead to a question?
yes, okay. What would you be, to each of the candidates, what would you be supporting in terms of raising productivity? This is about Finniss, so it's a state government. What would you be supporting to make sure that the productivity of the South Australian government is increased?
Thank you. Who would like to take that first?
I'm thinking still.
Greg's going first.
As I mentioned before, one of our policies is a local government policy where we want to see all councils held accountable, and the transparency within council has to be visible. As it is at the moment, even Victor Harbour, Alexandrina, as far as spending costs and the breakup of expenditure, does anyone know what the council debt is? Victor Harbour's debt. You know what Victor Harbour's debt is? No, you do? Well, I don't.
You're telling the story, so you go
I'm
ahead.
saying that it's probably not disclosed. I mean, the secretive agenda of councils has to basically be broken up, and it has to be visible to every ratepayer within the community, and they should have a say on what money is being spent on.
What's this got to do with state?
It's about roads, footpaths, and picking up bins. The majority of money should be spent in those areas.
Okay. Who would like to go next?
Do you want to go? Okay. So what you're asking is quite a complex question, and particularly for people who haven't been in state government. So I can only answer this as a person who has been on 3 different government boards. And the last one I was responsible on audit and risk for a $500 billion budget. Now, every time we came to budget cycle from the state government, we were told to reduce costs to come in under budget and to deliver the same, if not better, services. So that happened to me in a health board, and it also happened to me on the libraries board, which the libraries board is funded by the state government, and then they fund public libraries, and that then comes down to the council. So you have the 2 tiers of government, and every single time the state government would screw down on the state boards who were handing out the funds for the services. Now, in a health environment, it's very complex because you have federal funding based on beds, based on, all the different services that are there, and how that funding goes through Medicare as well as all the other programs. I think understanding complex budgets, and seriously, it took me a long time to understand some of these, and I had, in the 80s, I managed elders superannuation, which was $300 million that we reported to the cent every fortnight trading in 54 countries. So I can tell you, I understand complex budgets. When you get into those budgets, you have to really drill down and understand where the budget lines were. So to come back to the council, every year I would pick up that we had the same dollar value along the operating systems that the council. For 6 years, we had exactly the same dollar value for an IT system at Alexandrina. Every year I brought it up. I didn't bring it up last year because I had cancer. It's the only time I haven't put in a really complex report for Alexandrina's budgets, because just putting those line items year in, year out, nobody's reading them. Nobody's understanding those budgets. So you've actually got to learn how the budget process works and drill down. So once you get into Parliament, you have access to all those documents that we, as lay people, don't have access to. And so for me, I actually get quite turned on at budget time. Years ago, I was in camera meetings with the minister working out new budgets for the library sector in Western Australia, and that was fascinating, sitting around the table with the cabinet, watching how they drill down and trade off. And we pushed back and got, really significant funding for early childhood literacy to create a world-class product. So it's about understanding that and then knowing which items you're pushing for.
Lou?
Thank you. Look, I don't think it's overly complicated. As an independent, my job is to make sure that the priorities of our region are included in the budget. The government will be the ones to set the budget and manage the Treasury. When it comes to productivity, I think that is something that on the crossbench will certainly be involved in holding the government to account when they do deliver their budget. And I will do that in collaboration with our community. And I will grow my skills in that area, as we all do over our time in government. Certainly in local government, it is a steep learning curve to understand the budgeting process, and that's something that naturally every new elected member goes through, and there is support to learn that process. But my priority will be making sure that the projects that we need in the budget are in there.
I'd just like to add also, something must be going horribly wrong, because productivity in this country has dropped to 2011 levels. So work that one out.
Okay. I'm just mindful of time.
Can I really quickly
Yep.
do we have a fact checker in the room? Because I just actually feel quite uncomfortable with people leaving here tonight, not sure how the preferences work. I think Bronwyn and I both feel quite confident, and if we've got a fact checker just by the end of the night, I think it would be very good to just sort that out.
Can we next?
Was that okay? Yeah.
Do you know?
Thanks. We have an ageing population all through this area, and quite frankly, the new home care packages introduced by the federal Labor government are absolutely hopeless, and they are designed to deter people from even applying for a package. But what I'd like to ask from Finniss, what help does this area give to aged people trying to live in their own homes? Because quite frankly, coming from Alexandrina Council, I can say it's zero. I have a friend in the Adelaide Hills Council, and they are a lot better. So quite frankly, this area is not doing anything for older people, and you should be ashamed.
I thought you were going to respond to the preferences. Did you have a comment about preferences?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
My understanding is...
Come closer to the
Sorry. My understanding is that when a candidate nominates for the position or to run for government, excuse me, this is out of my normal reign, you'll find that you'll need to put in your preference card, which is your how to vote card, which is telling people how you would like them to vote. So you need to have every preference noted from 1 to 5, but in your original how to vote card, they can just indicate 1, but they need to fill in the rest of the boxes from 1 to however candidates there are. Then there is the ballot paper, which is probably not what we're talking about, but what we are talking about is the how to vote ticket. The ticket says that with that, a candidate has the option as to whether they submit a ticket or not. A ticket has to have on there all your preferences. You can have 1 or 2, but with those, that means that if somebody on their how to vote cards votes 1 person, then the Electoral Commission go through and they say, let me get the terminology right, is that your indication, so you might have said that your second and third preferences, you've listed them how you want them to be, you have to nominate those, you have to say what your preferences are. If by chance when a voter goes to vote they only have 1 person on the vote and they only vote for 1, then the Electoral Commission look at your ticket and they take the ticket as gospel. So it's not as straightforward as saying this is how you've opted only for 1, because the Electoral Commission, when it comes to the preferences, they will look at your ticket and go how you vote there. So yes, your preferences are really important. You don't have to fill in the how to vote ticket, but if you do, you will need to put preferences, and it will need to be for every available position. So I don't know if that clears it up.
Okay, thank you. I had scheduled that we would finish. Oh, I'll get back here a bit. Sorry. That would finish by 8:30. Is that acceptable to everyone? Because we've got at least 4 questions to go, and we should finish by 8:30. If everyone's happy with that? Okay, sir, you're up.
It's a very quick one. I've had the unfortunate experience, or maybe a fortunate experience, of going to Flinders Hospital having had a bit of a heart attack. My God, I have never realised how bad that road is from Victor Harbour to Flinders. It is a disgrace. Our local member needs to act, and I believe it really needs you people to turn around and stand up and say it's your #1 priority, because that will get you votes. The second thing I'd like to say is the local councils here are great at hiding debt. Our local council in Victor Harbour has got at least $8 million worth of hidden debt. And I believe it is time that we started to make the local councils adhere to the Local Government Act 1999, and indeed that is part of what Council Watch does. I'd like to hear your comments, but please fix that bloody road. I don't want to go there again, believe me.
The question's about Victor Harbour Road, one of my passions as well.
Thank you, Terry. Look, the Victor Harbour Road comes up election after election after election. It must be for at least a decade or more. And I think, you know, for me personally, I'm not going to sit here tonight and promise that I can get that done in 4 years. Certainly, it will be up there on the advocacy. And for me, the approach will be telling the stories and sharing the impact of that road on our local residents, our confidence driving to Adelaide and back, the impact it has on our safety, the impact it has on visitors coming down to our region and our local economy. I will be pressing for a staged upgrade approach in line with various reports that have very clear recommendations. It's a matter of persistence. In terms of local government, of course, you know, that is probably a matter more for the local government elections later in the year.
Sorry, the Local Government Act comes from state government.
Yeah, so if where a council is not adhering to the Local Government Act, that would be a matter for the Ombudsman.
Okay, thanks, Lou. Who would like to go next?
Okay, I'll start on Victor Harbour Road and then I'll come back to the Ombudsman. So Victor Harbour Road is one of the projects that I've actually got in the mix, in embryonic stages with the Department of Infrastructure. The biggest problem at the moment is that Nankita Road, Victor Harbour intersection, and Bill Cooman's actually at the council meeting in December, so I'm a bit geeky. I go to council meetings and watch the others. He suggested a connection with Tay Road and a roundabout, which I think is a very solid repair of what is a difficult situation for the people of Mount Compass and also for the trucks coming through on the freight. That road is a disgrace, and we have a state government pushing us to build more and more houses down here. Well, we need to push back and say no more houses until we have the infrastructure in place. This is about forward planning, it's around timelines, it's around delivery, and getting the government to understand you cannot keep putting band-aids on things that will then just add up. And so we need to look at all that pressure for more homes and say, well, if you want more homes down here, we have to have the infrastructure to support that, and we need to be at the table. We need to be at those in-camera meetings. We need to be there and negotiating with the Cabinet, saying what will work for us in terms of the whole area. And it's not just Finniss, it goes further north as well. I want to come back to the lady's comment about aged care and the issues in this area. We know that Finniss is one of the oldest electorates in the country. Mayo is the oldest federal electorate, and I would say Finniss was the oldest part of Mayo. Women outlive men 5 years on average, and so what we have is we have a whole lot of older women without the resources. They don't have the superannuation. I call them the sandwich generation. They have nursed their parents, they've looked after their children, and they've come away with less superannuation, and they live longer. So what we need to do is to create environments where people can live healthily in their homes. And for me, one of the biggest issues is around transport. Transport gives you independence. So if we start looking at community transport options, you talked about Alexandrina Council. I have the shame of being on Alexandrina Council when we killed all our community service staff. And that was a CEO who had absolutely no regard for the older people in the community. He was just interested in bright, shiny future stuff for him. And it was appalling. And I got into trouble a lot because I spoke up, and I spoke up for libraries, I spoke up for the community bus. Why couldn't the community bus that Alexandrina owned go to another community organisation? Those sort of things. So we do need to have that local kind of knowledge, but also understand that we need more hubs, we need more community centres. For example, there's a lot of what we found in the Middleton floods. There were a lot of lonely old women in Middleton who had been affected by the flood, and they were completely traumatised because their houses were flooded and they had no family. So you've got people like that are outside the federal loop of a package. They're outside the state emergency, but they fall in local government. So that's where the 3 tiers of care come from. And I think we just have to be a more caring community. We're all getting old. That's the fact. We're all going to be old one day. So let's look after the older people the way we'd like to be looked after.
Thank you.
I think we're all in agreement about the Adelaide-Victor Harbour Road, but I think funding, it'll be years before that's basically upgraded, I'm sure of that, because of funding issues. But the upgrade from South Road to the McLaren Vale turn-off, which is probably, 3 kilometres, that was 600 million. So it's going to take a lot of money to basically get what we require. And the other road basically is the Goolwa to Mount Compass Road too. That's in very, very poor condition. So we're behind the 8 ball, and money hasn't been spent when it should have been spent, and we're paying the price for it now.
Have you got a comment on the aged care that the lady raised?
Yep. I think it's imperative that some sort of community bus or transport network is set up for the aged people within our community that haven't got the ability to be able to travel or drive. That should be a no-brainer.
Thank you. What was the question again?
So, in the area of Finniss, with an ageing population, in Finniss, with an ageing population, what's Finniss doing? What are the local councils within Finniss doing for people? I mean, even if they come and clean up the mess the street cleaners make on people's property, and I'm speaking personally, but this council, and I can relate just to Alexandrina, doesn't do a thing. They pick up my rubbish, thanks very much. They send a street sweeper once in the blue moon. But there's no one ever comes and says, is there something we can do for you? Yes, transport's one thing, but I can still drive, and I have someone else who'll help me drive further. But it's just okay, we want to keep people in their own homes, but this council is not doing anything to help, and they should be ashamed of themselves.
I'm not sure whether that's a state government question, but Councillor Nicholson, and I'm Councillor Coomans, and Councillor Scott is up there, we were listening. Did you want to make a comment at all, Lou?
Yeah, I think it is tricky because it's a state, obviously a state candidate forum, but I think, Alexandrina Council do provide funding to the local community centre in Goolwa, and I think it's partnerships like those that help where council recognises the importance of community in health and wellbeing, so I would suggest that is one thing that Alexandrina Council does. Finniss is the oldest electorate in South Australia, and our older people are incredibly important. Having the confidence to know that you can age well at home is something that I think keeps people awake at night, wondering, how am I going to get through the next few months? How am I going to get through the next few years as my support needs increase? So, for me, if elected as the state member for Finniss, it will certainly be about working closely with our federal member, Rebecca Sharkey, on those aged care reforms and making sure that our older people are looked after, because that is the majority of our community here.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am, you had a question?
Good evening, everyone. My name's Bernadette. I'm a resident of Victor Harbour for about 14 years, and I'm also a business owner in the Alexandrina Council. Loved hearing everything about road upgrades and public transport, particularly aged care. It is something that we all need to think about. What my question is that everyone seems to have passion and they want change, but how are you actually going to work with the Labor government to achieve this change? Thank you.
Greg, you can go first this time.
Right. Yeah. Well, as I said previously, we're running candidates in every electorate in South Australia. We've got 3 representatives running for the upper house, and with their influence, hopefully, they're going to be able to have an input into bills and legislation and law changes where if you're affiliating yourself with Labor, you can negotiate, but at the end of the day, you're not going to have that punch. And I think, looking at the polls, a lot of people are saying the two-party system is not for us anymore because we're not getting anything out of it, and they are looking for change.
You go.
Thank you for the question, Bernadette. Obviously we don't know which government it will be until after the election. We do have a very strong Labor government at the moment. The Liberal Party has a long way to go to claw back enough seats to take government this election. So I suppose, we can look at a likely scenario where it will have a Labor government after the election. As an independent, you have a unique opportunity to be able to work with any government that is elected. You're not just in opposition, you're on the crossbench, you're able to hold them to account, you're able to represent the views of your community and advocate for the priorities in your community, but you can actually work collaboratively as well. So it comes down to how you do that. And for me, how will I do it? I have a track record of working collaboratively. I have a track record of good relationships in my council chamber with the mayor, with the CEO, with the general managers and the staff. I have a track record of good working relationships in the community with our business chambers. I have a good track record of working with the current government. I've achieved, through part of my advocacy has been with the Minister for Health and Wellbeing, advocating for an increase to the Patient Assisted Transport Scheme funding to make sure that individuals and families in our region are able to access that. And we've now had a promise from the Labor government, following significant advocacy and including my pleas from our region, to expand it to the Southern Flurio. There's more work to do on that, and I will do that. It's not a perfect promise, but we've had that promise and we've had that need recognised. As I said before, I've had a meeting with the Premier. I've made these good working relationships, and I can not just make those relationships, I can maintain those relationships. I do not have a track record of relationships going bad, relationships falling apart. I do not have a track record of online Facebook sort of warrior and debate. That's not my style. It's not what you'll get from me. You will get a constructive, collaborative MP who puts their head down and gets the job done.
Thanks, Bernadette, and I know your business well. So I want to talk to you about an example of where I have got government from outside government to change legislation in record time. So quite a few years ago, I was working in Western Australia and I uncovered that the Charities Act was non-compliant with the ATO. So you had a whole series of not-for-profits that were not compliant under what is called a public ancillary fund. And it's quite a complex tax situation. But I then approached the Attorney General and said, from an outsider, and said, you've got a problem. They took no notice of me. So then I kept writing to ministers and getting traction, and it was from a opposition government. Finally, I'm at a conference in Tasmania. I get this call from the Attorney General's department and said, it appears we've got a problem. And I said, yes, and I've spoken to the head of complex legal at ATO to say, please don't fine all these charities in Western Australia who are non-compliant, because I'm onto it. And in 2 years, we got legislation. And that sounds a long time, but in state government, it's not a long time. So we worked consistently. Every Monday at 9 a.m, I had a phone meeting with the Attorney General's department. I got the Hansard from all the other states. I brought it all together. I showed them what to do, and we developed the best legislation in Australia now for charities. And so when I see a problem, I go out and work out what we need to do and bring the solution to the table. I do want to make a comment that in all my time on council, and I did have a difficult role in council because I did ask difficult questions and I stood up to difficult situations. And never in any of that time did any of my motions fail for a lack of a seconder. So even when I had people going against me, you know, hammer and tongs, trying to defame me and undermine me, I still managed to get my motions over the line. I remember one councillor from Goolwa saying, I'm voting on this because it's what the people want, not because I like you. And I said, that's what we're here for. We're here to represent the people. I don't care if you like me. I'm here to represent my constituents. So I did have a very intense time on council, and but I'm proud that none of my motions failed for a lack of seconder. So, you know, even when they don't like you, they see the sense in what you're saying.
Thank you. Now, I thought I had one question. We've got 2 left, and we've got 9 minutes. So could your responses be a little bit shorter, please? Go ahead,
I'll try
sir.
and make this as brief as I can. Thanks, Bill. Just a quick point on the preferences. What happens is the person with the lowest primary vote, as they call it, gets discarded. Their second preferences get allocated. So it works from the bottom up. So preferences are vital, and I'd like to commend the candidates for saying they're not going to try and tell me how to vote. With my preferences, I'm going to decide where I'm going to put my preferences, and that is true democracy. Thank you. Now, to my question, having been a councillor at Victor Harbour until I saw the light and moved to Hindmarsh Island, I'm aware that the councils with the highest rate of population growth are typically the ones with the highest debt burden. Now, bearing that in mind, and bearing also that the state government of both persuasions have virtually removed all power over planning from councils and centralised it in the state government, how can we, one, try and get some influence at least back to the local community, and two, hang on, I've got a third one now, and two, how can we force the state government to really financially support those communities which they are inundating with new people? Now, what the hell was my third one?
2 is good. 2 is good.
Two is good. We'll stick with 2, Bill.
Okay. All right, who would like to start that one?
Dissect the question again.
Greg?
I think state government took planning approvals and the likes of that sort of authority off of local council because they were making such a mess of it. So I'm not 100% sure if it's improved or not, but as you say, perhaps some of the process could come back to local council level. And the other thing about debt and the size of councils, I mean, I think they've just, Onkaparinga have just released they've got $123 million debt, and they can't upgrade the Moana Surf Life Saving Club. So that just seems to be part of life, which needs to be addressed.
Go back to the front. So with council debt, I remember having budget conversations where we were told money was cheap, and I said, what about when interest rates rise? And people didn't want to hear that. So unfortunately, the ESCOSA report completely vindicated my questions around financial sustainability, and it doesn't make me pleased. It makes me very sad. I had constituents in Port Elliot paying $180 a week rates who couldn't afford to pay their electricity bill, getting pneumonia. So I was very angry about the level of rates based on people living in their homes for 50 years and the property value going up. In terms of Minister Champion and the planning area, what a balls up, really. I mean, we have so many situations where it's out of council control. So even though you have Fluorio Regional Assessment Panel, they have no control over what is happening with the state government. I think most sensible people would say that I sat through, and Craig Maidment and I'm sorry, Bill, I don't think you were part of it. We sat through all the training of that new Development Act, and it was intense. Every month, about a 4-hour lecture that the Local Government Association ran. And even now, I could not tell you what of it made sense. It actually didn't make sense. And I would, again, ask questions. And I think, you know, locally with the Fleurieu Regional Assessment Panel, we've had a bit of success. You know, obviously when you get community behind, like for example with the Flying Fish Cafe. Now, nobody had a problem with the Flying Fish Cafe being renovated. That was part of their lease agreement from when I was on council. But we had a problem about them taking over community land. So a lot of people wrote submissions, and we got up, and I got up to speak at it, and they said, oh, you're speaking for X, Y, Z. And I said, I had no idea, but does that give me more than 5 minutes? Which it did. So we managed to stop that development on community land. And I think there are ways in local government where we can still have the community's heart and still make a difference. I think any government in the near future will be re-looking at the development, what's it called, DPI, isn't it, the Act? They will go back and look at that, because the Liberal Party didn't agree with it under Stephen Marshall. This government is struggling with it. It has to come under review again. Unfortunately, it rolled out, and there were all sorts of issues in the rollout, and it hasn't been resolved. And 4 years is a short time in state government. You know, people are still getting policies and procedures. It's just, they move with glacial speed. So I can see that this is going to be an issue for a few years to come. Okay.
Lou, have you a comment?
Thank you. I'll try and keep it shorter. My approach will certainly be to form a united front with our local councils. So City of Victor Harbor and Alexandrina Council, they have significant planning departments, and they know the issues, they know the pressure points, and they are consulting with our local communities on growth and development. When I'm door knocking, growth and the infrastructure to match is a significant issue that comes up time and time again. Our communities are really worried about it. I'm worried about it. We all moved here because this is a beautiful part of the world. There is a special character to the Fleurieu Peninsula. We've chosen to live here, and we are now custodians, and we're invited to consult on development. We are engaging in those consultations. We are giving our feedback to the Minister. So if I'm elected as our local MP, I will be working very, very closely and collaboratively with City of Victor Harbor and Alexandrina Council to back up the consultations and the perspectives of the community that they are taking to the Minister. And I think we need to be a united front on this, and I think we can be, with someone who can work across and work well with both of our local councils.
Okay, so you're the lucky last, and we've got 1 minute.
Yes or no? Given the earlier comments and acknowledgement that there's a question mark, over the legitimacy of organising candidate forums when all candidates aren't even known. When they are known, this might be only half the ticket here tonight. So when they are known, do you anticipate going through this all again, candidate Lewis?
Thank you. Yeah, sure. I'm here for the people. If we have another forum organised closer to the election, great. This time 4 years ago, all the candidates were known, and we were having forums all around Alexandrina, and Lou and I were both at quite a few of them. So, you know, that's generally when they happen, for people to go away, think, come back, write questions to you. With this one, the people, ironically, the people who approached me about Goolwa aren't here tonight because they're interstate. But Alexandrina Council came on board with Bill raising it at the December meeting, and I thank you for that, Bill, because I think this is a really good democratic process where people can actually hear what candidates have to say and ask those questions. And look, we're not going to agree on everything. That's our right. But let's have respect and say, let's get everybody's voices out there. Let's have a look at who's standing. And, you know, I know that the Labor Party are really struggling to get a candidate. That when I met with them, they said that this is a rusted-on Liberal seat and, you know, they weren't going to put much money into it. That's what we've got to work against. They don't see us as a strong enough voice. They see us as not putting any effort into. So let's, you know, it's pretty likely that they'll be in power. Let's keep digging and making sure that they see that we're here.
Did you want to comment?
Agree.
Agree. Okay.
When I ran in 2022, there were 3 candidate forums. There have been 2 candidate forums organised by well-known community groups. Business Victor Harbour are organising a candidate forum over in Victor Harbour. The South Coast Progressive Women's Association are organising a candidate forum. They're both after the writs are issued. So I think they will be excellent opportunities to have all of the candidates there, and a really excellent opportunity for the community to come and have this type of format with the broad range of candidates. There have been 6 other candidate forums organised prior to that. It is a lot of candidate forums. When I ran in 2022, instead of organising candidate forums, I actually went around the community and I held a range of listening forums. So it was my own event, and I took ownership of that, and I invited the community, just like tonight, to come and engage with me. These have been organised as candidate forums, and you know, I think candidate forums are an incredible opportunity for the community to connect with candidates, but this is a lot of candidate forums before the writs are issued and all candidates are known, so not sure.
Greg, did you have a comment?
Oh, I'm okay with that. I mean, if we've got a full bench of candidates and we want to run another one of these, yeah, sure, we'll be in.
Okay, so time-wise, we're pretty good. I've just got 3 little things that I'd just like to finish off with. Firstly, could I ask you all to thank the 3 candidates that came along tonight? And secondly, if you perhaps put up your hands if you thought that the way things ran tonight, even though we've only had 3 candidates here, that it seemed to be fair and balanced, that it wasn't biased in any way? Do you agree with that? Okay. Yeah, all right. I had good reason for asking that, but yeah. The other thing is that we've still got 5 forums to go, and after that, when we know all the candidates, may be more. But I should just explain, and I did explain it to the current member today, that when you set up forums like this, it's a fair bit of forward planning to do so. And I guess one of the expectations we had is by now that we're so close to an election that we would know all of the candidates, that they probably would have been working the last 6 months in their communities and finding out what the important things were and then sort of fine-tuning their policies. Unfortunately, we know most, but we don't know all. And none of the Legislative Councillors candidates came tonight, but there will be a few at the other meetings, so there may be some questions of a more general nature that you'd like to ask them. So I reckon it's probably about time to wrap up, and perhaps could I just ask you to thank yourselves for coming along tonight? Thank you.